Was, I thought, a terrific performance by North Carolina and a valiant effort by our guys. I thought it was a very entertaining game. Both teams, I thought, played very hard and very well. But Cam Johnson was just incredible in the second half. We played man-to-man. We played a 3-2 zone. We played a 2-3 zone. We even played a box and one for a few possessions and put Chris Likes on him. But there was no way to stop him or the Tar Heels today. And that's the way they play. They scored 85 points, and that's basically what they average. I thought our guys did a good job, and we missed some critical, what I would call routine shots for us in the first half that could have given us a lead, but we missed them and were never able to get a lead on them. Questions?
The fact that you had 7 players and they had 11, does that continue to be a factor?
It's always going to be a factor. Yeah. You know, we went one stage. I take Chris Likes out after 3 minutes. I put him back in after he's rested 2 or 3 minutes, and then he never comes out again. I don't know how many minutes they have him playing today, but it has to be more than 35. And it's hard. He's a very necessary part of our offense, and when he's not in the game, we don't have enough firepower. And then he and Zach Johnson, I mean, they share that ball handling responsibility, and that wears you down. And when it got to the last, I'll say 8-10 minutes, I thought Carolina was rolling, and we were drained.
In particular, those 4 threes that they had in 5 possessions could be some of what you're saying. But what did you see and how big were those?
Yeah, but some of them were, you know, beyond the hash mark. Cameron Johnson on that one that he hit over Chris Likes, I turned to my bench and said, wow, that was nasty. Because you don't expect to have to guard a guy who's 6'9". Now, he's their leading scorer. He's a tremendous three-point shooter, but he was like beyond NBA range. He was closer to midcourt than he was the foul line.
Coach, all but one game this season you led in the second half. The only game you didn't beat from trailing by 4 a few minutes ago against Penn. Is there something that you can do to kind of come out on top, or is it kind of just hampered by the 7 healthy scholarship guys?
I guess if there was a way, we would try to figure that out. I like that better than being behind. But there's a reason the ACC is considered the best basketball league in the country. There are a lot of really great players in this league and some Hall of Fame coaches coaching them. So they're not so easy to beat. You know, even if you've got a terrific team, they probably have more guns than you do, more weapons, more size, more athletic ability. And I think that was on display today. I think our guys played about as well as we can. But eventually it's a battle of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not nutrition, attrition. My brain doesn't always work like I'd like it to. I'm sorry? Well, what happens in basketball and the way you control the tempo is really with your offense. And if you can keep the other team on defense, it takes away possessions. What happens when you play North Carolina, they are a high-octane offense, so they are scoring so quickly. You get the ball back, they're pressuring you, you know, and trying to force you to play fast. And so there's a lot of possessions, there's a lot of scoring. We had 37 at half. I was pleased with that. We're averaging 75. Oh, if we could have sustained that in the second half, we would have had a chance to win. But they just scored so quickly and so often and from so many different ways. You got Luke May, who's the preseason player of the year. You got Cam Johnson, who's 6'9" and shooting threes. You have Nasir Little coming in off the bench, who's projected to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. You got Kobe White, who's a 6'5" point guard going against our guy who's 5'7". I mean, and Kenny Williams, he's like maybe a third or fourth or fifth option, and he's like an NBA guy. So they're hard to beat.
In terms of the rebounding margin, I know it was something that you'd worked on, and obviously North Carolina rebounds well. How difficult is it to kind of overcome that number?
You know, honestly, impossible. Our job was not to out-rebound them, but just keep it close. Don't let them out-rebound us like they out-rebounded us by 10 in the first half alone, 15 for the game. We have Buka. Everybody else is basically a perimeter player and smaller. So we don't have enough size and girth and manpower to battle the teams in our league on a regular basis. Can we do it for periods of time? Yes. But it's hard over a longer period of time.
Jim, how much do you worry when your team has to face that every night? Like, do you worry that they're going to lose faith at some point or get discouraged? And is that your job, obviously?
Well, it hasn't been that way yet. The guys have practiced it really well. But you got to remember, when you have 7 guys, you got to be careful. To give you an idea, you know, Anthony Mack sprained his ankle on Tuesday. So, like, we might be down to 6. And then early in the game, I don't know if anyone noticed it, Chris Likes and Zach Johnson both caught knees to the thigh and got Charlie horses. So that slowed them a little bit, and it tightens up during the course of the game. And then with 3 or 4 minutes left in the first half, Buka Zindu and Anthony Lawrence were both on the bench with 2 fouls. And since they are both foul prone, very, very hard to leave them in there because it's just not wise to play them in the first half with 2, which could end up being 3, and then they play very tentative in the second half.
Anything else?
What'd you tell the guys at halftime? It was tied.
Told them they played really good. It was a really good half.
Coach, obviously they were pulling away, but you called that timeout with like 37 seconds, and it led to the technical. You looked like you were hesitant to call the timeout in the worst situation.
I didn't have a timeout.
Yeah,
That's a good reason to hesitate. We don't have one. But at that point, I had forgotten we didn't have a timeout, and I wanted to do something offensively and defensively that I had to deliver the message to the players. And so we did, and cost us 2 points, but was hoping that we could get that back with the change in strategy and trying to pick them up full court with the press.
Just your thoughts on next game, turn around against the Syracuse team.
Yeah, I asked the players, you know, if we play really well against Syracuse and we get ahead by 10, what defense will they switch to? Because we know they're going to start in the 2-3 zone. And what's the answer? They don't switch. They're going to play the 2-3 zone. We're going to see it for 40 minutes, and we got to mentally prepare for a very different opponent, someone who's just come off of a win at Cameron Indoor Stadium where they trailed by like 14 or 16 in the first 5 minutes of the game. They didn't change defense. They stayed with the zone, and eventually were able to come back and win the ball game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Virginia play Duke tonight at 6 o'clock. That's 2 teams that right now are both ranked number 1 in the country in 2 different polls, so should be a very entertaining game. Thanks, everybody.